Welcome to part 6 of my presentation on the Humble Project Management Toolkit for better results in an uncertain world, in which I talk about the toolkit compartments U and M. U is for understand the project's ecosystem and M is for manage in alignment with the project's ecosystem. We're all part of an ecosystem with connections, interactions and relations with other actors and factors. In the famous words of English poet John Donne, no man is an island entire of itself. We have some power to change this ecosystem, but this ecosystem also has the power to change us. Managing a project without regard to the ecosystem of which it is a part is like transplanting an organ without giving due consideration to the recipient's immune system. In such instances, the chance of rejection and other complications are very high. So it is very important to understand your project's ecosystem. This Roman coin features the two faces of Janus, the Roman god of doors. You might think that Janus was at the back of the queue when Jupiter was handing out the godly responsibilities. But doors were revered in Roman mythology. The door is symbolic as a place from which you can look both back and forward, hence Janus's two faces. The first month of the year, January, is named after Janus, as it is a time when we look back at the last year and forward to the next. In terms of ecology, Janus symbolises looking both inwards and outwards. Using a simultaneously inwards and outwards focus, I want to examine three aspects of the project's ecosystem: the project landscape, the milieu within which the project is embedded, project objectives and processes, objectives being the change to which the project wishes to contribute, and processes how the project seeks to contribute to the intended change, and organisational practices, how the organisation that implements the project maintains its fitness for purpose so that its own behaviour is in alignment with the system of which it is a part. In terms of managing in alignment with the project's ecosystem, I think this cartoon perfectly illustrates the fact that we often fail to consider ourselves to be part of the change process to which we wish to contribute. The audience is very keen when the UN leader asks them if they want change. But there's a palpable loss of enthusiasm when he asks them if they want to change. In terms of understanding the project's landscape, it is very important to know your project's niche, or the location and function of the project in the landscape within which it is embedded. In terms of social actors, one can consider this niche as circles of control, influence and interest. This is a concept used in the outcome mapping system of project planning, monitoring and evaluation, a system I find very useful and use extensively in my work. The project is embedded in a landscape that comprises of many social actors. The project more or less controls the actions of those who are responsible for project implementation. This is the project's sphere of control. But the project does not, or at least should not, exist solely for the benefit of the project implementation team. So this implementation team interacts with others who they hope to influence directly. These individuals and institutions constitute the project's sphere of influence. Beyond this sphere of direct influence, there are other social actors that the project seeks to indirectly influence. These individuals and institutions constitute the project's sphere of interest or concern. As you will remember from the fish soup development story, this is the parent's sphere of worry. You'll also notice that the arrows of influence are double-headed because influence is a two-way street. Those implementing a project are change agents, but they also need to be open to changing themselves as well. In terms of managing in alignment with the project landscape, it is advisable to place most effort in the spheres of control and influence, where you're best placed to make a difference. Of course, as is clear from its name, you're still interested in the sphere of interest, concern or worry, but your ability to directly affect change in this sphere, at least in the short term, is limited. This understanding of our limitations when it comes to what we can and cannot control has been expressed succinctly and poetically in the 3 lines of the Serenity Prayer that have been made famous by its use in Alcoholics Anonymous. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. When it comes to understanding project objectives and processes, it's important to identify what is simple and what is not. Because, in the words of systems thinking experts Bob Williams and Richard Hummelbrunner, managing everything as if it's simple is ineffective, and managing everything as if it is complex is inefficient. So when it comes to simple situations, those in which there's a high predictability and widespread agreement, we can put a lot of effort in the planning process and a well-constructed plan, which should, under most circumstances, yield the desired results. In such circumstances, ongoing monitoring of project activities, what gets done, and results, what gets achieved, can be relatively light, as it's essentially a box-ticking exercise. This is also the case for the periodic evaluation process, which assesses parameters such as the relevance, efficiency, effectiveness, sustainability, and impact of an intervention. It is desirable to develop a carefully planned system to automate simple tasks such as templates, checklists, activity logs, and tracking tools, the stuff of classic project management, My poster child for automating simple tasks is Vivi, the Mauritian street-side fast food vendor. He produces the same product to the same standard day after day at an extremely rapid pace. His product is always to hand, as are his carrier bags and other materials, and he can always access the correct change when it is needed. Vivi's queues of customers are long, but you get served quickly, in contrast to many of his competitors who have not developed an automated system and take much more time. In project management, the development of systems to automate simple tasks, such as certain types of meeting and reporting obligations, can free up time and energy for the more challenging aspects of project management. When it comes to the complex aspects of a project, it's not possible to plan with such great precision because there's a high degree of uncertainty and disagreement when it comes to objectives and the actions required to achieve them. In such cases, it's extremely important to emphasize monitoring and evaluation, which will help us make sense of what happened and the outcomes to which our actions contributed. Intensive monitoring and evaluation allows us to capture both planned and unplanned positive and negative outcomes. The information from our monitoring and evaluation efforts can then be fed into the planning process. This systematic process of planning, action, monitoring of what happened, reflection upon what happened, learning from our understanding, and replanning is known as the action learning cycle. The action learning cycle is the basis for a systematic adaptive management framework. The action learning cycle can be mapped onto my 3 standard evaluation questions. What was done, what was not done, who did what, and what were the results of what was done. So what? What is the significance of the activities and results? And now what? Given what happened and its significance, what should we do in future to ensure that we can build on our successes to date? So adaptive management is a systematic, evidence-based framework for flexible decision-making under conditions of uncertainty. It is not an excuse for making things up as you go along. This is not an example of adaptive management. This is just laziness, pure and simple. The third aspect of the project ecosystem I would like to talk about is organisational practices, because no organisation is a hermetically sealed entity standing outside the ecosystem. So we need to understand how well aligned our organisation is with the ecosystem of which it is a part. One way of doing this is by using Viable System Modelling, or VSM for short, in which we assess our organisation's alignment with its purpose, projects and landscape by breaking down the organisation into interacting subsystems, each of which is analogous to subsystems in the human body. There are the day-to-day operations such as production and distribution, which could be thought of as similar to an organisation's musculoskeletal system. There is internal coordination and monitoring, ensuring that the organisation's components interact in a coherent manner. This coordination system is analogous with the human nervous system. There are external interactions, the connections to the outside world, such as communications and intelligence gathering, which can be thought of as an organisation's eyes and other sense organs. And finally there's strategy and policy, which is analogous with the human brain. Viable system modelling serves as both a diagnostic and a design tool, so it can be used to help an organisation to adapt its systems so they more closely align with project objectives, project processes and the project landscape. An organisational development approach I find particularly useful in this respect is appreciative inquiry, which seeks to design systems around people's best experiences. It represents a bottom-up approach to organisational development, in which we seek to know, show and grow bright spots or good practice in organisations and projects, so that we can get more of what we want and less of what we don't want. Appreciative inquiry does not deny the negative, rather it invites us to be sensitive to the people we work with and the context within which they live and work. As a consultant, I find appreciative inquiry to be an excellent approach, as it ensures that you draw upon people's own experiences as a point of departure, rather than coming in with a preconceived recipe for change. It helps to validate the client's experience, so honours what has been done up to now, rather than ripping them apart or marginalising current practices by focusing on the existing situation as a problem and imposing an external solution. In this way, appreciative inquiry serves as a defence against the so-called seagull effect, the name given to the common phenomenon of consultants flying in, landing, liberally spreading their external wisdom over the heads of others, and leaving a mess that needs to be cleaned up by those who are left behind. In the next part, I introduce approaches to bring in diverse perspectives in terms of involving different stakeholders and viewpoints. See you soon.